Here we go. Hi there, my name is Ryan Vickers and welcome to Pop Whiz After Show. With me today is Sergio Gallinaro, director for the series of Pop Whiz. Serge, thanks for being with us.
No problem, Ryan. Great to speak with you.
We appreciate it. It's been a while. I know the episodes are airing right now. Are you enjoying watching them, I'm guessing? I know you've lived them, obviously, but...
Yeah, it's funny. We obviously lived them filming in the summer. And we've been kind of living with the kids now since, editing these shows together, which is always a fun process. And I love that part of it just as much as I love being out there in the field. And it's weird. Yeah, you just feel like they've all just been kind of part of my life for the last little while.
And the fun thing, when we talked to Gallinaro a few episodes back, he said, I was rarely in the tent filming with the kids all the time. Obviously he wasn't in round 2, round 1, but in round 3, and some of the reactions he hadn't known about, so he was quite surprised to see that. So I think part of it too is it brings back the memories, right? So can you talk about your involvement in developing the show?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a mutual colleague of an acquaintance of Frank and I kind of put us in touch. Frank kind of brought this idea that he had to me, and then from there we just kind of ran with it. It was kind of a really good group effort, Frank and his colleagues, his son and his daughter. Ryan, as you very well aware, we're very much involved in that process, and it was something that just kind of, bit by bit, we kind of started figuring it out. I think, it took on many iterations from what, you start with this kind of blue sky vision of what you can be. And then for various reasons, the state of the world, what was happening, budgets, all these kind of things, execution, what can work, what can't work, traveling across Ontario, you kind of just whittle it down and try to come to a place where you're at a point where it's executable, and yet exciting and fun. And and I think we did that. I think where we started and where we ended up. I don't want to say we're two very different places, but there was some separation between those two spots, and I think where we ended up was really, really cool.
I know one of the things that got developed over time was the quiz cube. Can you tell us a little about sort of what your vision was with the quiz cube?
Yeah. So that came about. So originally we were going to do stations. So that the original idea was that we had these pods that we were going to kind of film in. We were going to have a much bigger tent. And that's what I was talking about. So as we started, and that was I think that we were all kind of jacked and jazzed about that idea. But then you realize traveling that around with a small crew and trying to set that up, it could be a bit daunting. So we pared everything down, and then I forget why. I think I was just thinking, how can we make this as much of an exciting experience? How can we make
like an atmosphere, right?
Yeah, how can we give an experience where it's almost like a shiny floor game show? Obviously, it's not a shiny floor game show, but that kind of studio experience for these kids. And that's where this whole idea of this studio for one kind of came up. And then it just became, all right, what if there originally was just lights? And then we said, I don't know how. I mean, the idea of a cube it's not like it's a brand new idea. It's not like it's novel, but for some reason I was just like, oh man, what if they just kind of step into this cube and then this thing becomes alive? So we take away the human element of asking the questions, obviously, until the third round.
Yeah.
And it just becomes an experience for the kids. The minute they walk into the tent until the minute they leave. That was really how this whole thing started. And then when I brought that to some of the camera guys and the lighting guys there, they kind of are the ones that ended up coming up with some of the more technical aspects of how to pull it together and what kind of lighting tubes to use and stuff like that. But yeah, so that was kind of it. But it was, again, that was a real group effort, and coming up with the voice and Jamie's voice, which is very much part of the cube. And yeah, I think as that started I think I put it out there, people started grooving on it and jamming on it.
And sort of like fleshing it out a bit, right?
Getting excited about it. And then it became a real kind of group effort to kind of pull it off, which was great.
And I think one of the things too, when you said about the immersive experience, is that certain game shows over time, you get practice before you do the show. And while we did explain the format to the contestants, they really didn't have that immersion until they physically went in for that round. And I thought that was a great idea because you really do feel part of that. And we found that, I think, repetitively from the contestants.
I agree with you. I think you know, it's funny because you never know how it's going to go. You never know how it's
Yeah.
going to be pulled off, what the reaction and response is going to be. You have an idea, you know, you try the best to get there. But as you know, you were with us every step of the way out in the field. The response from the kids was amazing. And I think that was part of it. It was part of this coming in and being like, oh, wow, this is, I wasn't expecting this. And then you go, and it's not like we filmed with them for like half hour and did multiple retakes and all that stuff. You know, it was a one shot, in you go.
Yeah.
We had it running pretty quick, pretty smooth from our end of things, so that when the kids came in, we could make it exactly what you said, an immersive experience that was memorable and fun. And yeah, and I think that's what we did.
I feel that too. You know, I think we're kind of on the same page
Yeah.
with that. What is a show like this when it is obviously there's some pre and post production done in editing studios and whatnot and planning, but it's a road show. What kind of challenges do you face as a director doing this on the road, knowing that yes, while you do have the same set piece with the tent, the quiz queue, and everything, you're in different locales?
Yeah, I come from you know, I don't have a ton of game show experience per se, but I do come from an unscripted lifestyle kind of background where you're on the road a lot. And the biggest challenges, like you said, you know what the set piece is, you know the tent, you know kind of what the camera angles are set up, or what the setups are, but it's all the unknowns, it's all the variables when you're out there: noise, weather, sun, cloud, you know, are you on solid ground, are you on uneven ground? So you know, that was definitely a challenge. Time is also a challenge because of these things that are somewhat out of your control, and then having to kind of pivot and move. I mean, you know, again, you were with us. I won't tell any secrets, but remember that one day we showed up and our tent was like gone, like not gone, but down. We're like, oh my God.
But that's an attestant to the crew that we were lucky enough to have that thought, well, the contestants are showing up at half an hour. We got to make this work.
All hands on deck, and we made it work, right? And no exterior shots of the tent that day.
It's fair. But we dropped them in post, right?
So. Yeah, it was. But yeah, those are usually the biggest challenges. And then, you know, it's just all that. We were a tight crew, very small, you know, and so those are challenges too, right? Setting that up, and you know, it's really the biggest challenge is time. But what contributes to that are the unknowns. If you have a smaller crew, are traveling among places, right? It's not like you're in a controlled environment where you have all the time in the world to kind of do things. So, but as much as that's a challenge, that's what makes it fun to me. Like that's what I love. Like I love the experience that we had on the road. Obviously, being on the road with the crew is great, and all that stuff kind of it makes it fun and exciting for me. So. And then when you can pull it off, like I said, when you get back, and you know, we don't really have the luxury of looking at dailies. I mean, we saw a few things, but we were kind of going, and it wasn't until we were almost, you know, through the process and starting to see some of that footage, we're like, oh, okay, we got something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, in theory, we did some test runs and stuff, right? But
well, this is true, right? So, and it's you know, we did some test runs with some Zoom contestants, but again, it's still a different experience that way, right? So,
that's right.
How did you find you were involved with casting or contestants? How did you find that experience? Were there things that, did you find it easy to recruit people? Were people pretty willing to say, okay, this is a new format, but I trust in you. You've given me enough information that I'm willing to try something new?
Yeah, I think when it comes to casting, I really got to tip my hat and to our locals on the ground, our contacts that we had on the ground, who were from the get-go, from the minute this thing, we put it out into the world and started approaching towns about, you know, hosting us and having us come in, we were embraced just wholeheartedly, and it was amazing. And so our partners on the ground were really a big help, especially with casting. You know, a show, any show, not just a show like this, but a show that's new, that's not known. It's hard to get the word out, right?
100%.
So, you know, season 2, season 3, now that we've had a whole bunch of kids go through it, they're, you know, those sorts, but when you're starting from ground zero and it can be tough. It can be a bit of a struggle. It's mostly just because it's an unknown entity.
Yeah.
But we were, like I said, we were embraced. And I think what's going to help us moving forward is I think I know all the kids, not that I've heard from all of them, but I would say over 50 to 60% of either kids and or parents I receive emails from or texts from.
That's great.
That, yeah, really enjoyed the experience. They still to this day text me about, when's their episode airing and stuff. So to answer your question, that's kind of a long way to answer, but
That's okay.
it was a bit of a challenge, but without our local partners there. So I was involved so much in getting the information out to the our local partners on the ground. They're the ones that actually were able to make it happen for us.
Well, and massive tip of the hat to them. And one of the nice things too is I did appreciate it. There was a good chunk of people. If we were in Cornwall, for example, it was kids from Cornwall for the most part. But then we had kids coming from an hour and a half, 2 hours away because they figured this is my closest one. Yes, I want this opportunity.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so and when those kids have that kind of experience, and if you're reaching those kind of kids and kids that are 2 hours away are willing to make it, imagine that's out there. So kids that are an hour and a half or 2 hours away will make it. They just need to know about it. And I think after that, so after season 1, you got an entity that you can put out there that gets a bit of traction, and then those kids will come as proofs in the pudding.
I agree with that. Are there any particular moments that stick out for you this year? You're welcome to talk. We realize that there's 5 or 6 episodes that have aired by now, so we're going to avoid spoilers if we can. But I realize there might be some things that stick out for you, whether behind or on the show.
I mean, it was all just. I think back on last summer, and it was just a real great experience. I enjoyed some of the solo drives across the province.
Yeah, that's true.
Some drives with crew. Just coming in and meeting people in the town for the first time face to face after working with them, for months to lead up. I don't know that there's one, or I mean, there are for sure some obviously great moments that we had, but I think just in general, I'd say each town was amazing. The kids were great. Made me laugh, and still do when I'm watching when I'm still watching the edits. Some of the kids are just so fantastic and great personalities.
I think it's also the rawness of what it is.
Well, that's it.
I don't want to spoil, but one of our Thunder Bay winners, when asked what they would do with the money, obviously it was kind of a throwaway joke for them, but it's still to this point that it just made me laugh so much. And every time I can watch that one clip over and over just because that line came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, no, and there are clips like that for sure. I don't want to talk about them here. We'll let people watch, but
yeah, exactly. So.
But yeah, they were great, and I think that was, you kind of hit on something. I think that's what made the whole experience great. Was, look, I think it was a great experience for the kids. It was a great experience for the crew. And we were what we were. We weren't trying to be something that we're not. It was a quiz show that was supposed to be fun and bring a bit of excitement to these towns and give the kids an experience. And I think that's what we did. And so yeah, I think overall, it was just really great.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So, well, thanks, Serge. We appreciate you being here. We're reminding everyone to play Pop Whiz online. We have now got, we're looking at our contestants for our March cycle, and that'll be our 3rd of 3 cycles. So we want to get into that. That's popwizgameshow.com, and all the links are on the website. You can watch Pop Whiz on Game TV Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Please adjust for your time zones. And if you can't catch us on Sunday nights, we're on the Pop Whiz on the Game TV website, which is igametv.com/pop-whiz. That's igametv.com/pop-whiz. Thanks very much, Serge. And I should say, thanks for popping in. Take care.
Hey, great to see you again. All right. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.